If you would, please welcome Jimmie Bratcher to the house. Come on, my brother. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. I got my cry rag. I'm good.
I'm not crying. Good morning. We're glad to be in Arkansas this morning.
Hallelujah.
Boy, and the crowd went mild on that one. So we actually came down Friday, and then Jessica flew. She lives in D.C. She flew to Dallas, where Jason lives. And then yesterday we drove to Russellville, and I did our niece's wedding. And it was the first time ever. I've done hundreds of weddings, and it's the first time ever I did a wedding where in the crowd were pigs, chicken, and a goat. So, and I'm not making any Arkansas jokes right there either, so just so you say, they had their wedding in their barn. So, and then we drove back up here last night. We're here today, and it's just a thrill. Sherry, you want to say hi to everybody?
Come on, Sherry.
There you go. So we're just thrilled to be here today, and we're going to just share kind of not really a sermon with you, but, I'm going to sing some songs. We're going to take care of some business things and just show you some things. But, I'll talk about that later. So is that all right? Now, see, when I play loud electric guitar in church, I'm always fought with the religious, and those people that say, "Well, what about the old people?" It's like, well, they were rocking out to Zeppelin, I'm gonna turn 65 here in a few days, so I guess I can have a senior moment if I want to. I'm gonna get some T-shirts printed up, say, "I'm having a senior moment, leave me alone." There is a throne up in the sky. There sits a king, clothed in white. The scepter he holds in his hand. This one he reigns, the God become man. In this perfect place, he's the light in all of heaven. He's the light. He is perfect in every way. Still bears the scars he bore that day. In heaven there's a king whose body is scarred. In heaven there's a king whose body is marred. For I scarred and striped. See his hands ripped from the spine. See his side that did bleed. The scarred king for our sin and disease. Heaven there's a king whose body is scarred. Heaven there's a king whose body is marred. For our disease, the Son of God did bleed, the scarred king upon the throne. For our disease, the Son of God did bleed, the scarred king upon the All right now. Well, Pastor Eric asked me to sing that song and this song, so we're going to do it. Let's go, boys. Well, I woke up this morning with a crazy vision. And I thought it was heaven, it was bad religion. Well, it messed up my mind, it made me feel so mean. It drove everybody crazy, made them wanna scream. Well, my words, they cut sharp like a deep incision. I was killing my friends with my bad religion. Well, now who's that talking on my television? But some mean old preacher with his bad religion. Was he yelling and screaming, getting red in the face? Oh, he better be careful, he might pop a vein. No matter what he says, I don't feel forgiven. Somebody help me, please, he got some bad religion. I've been fussing, been fighting, been praying all night. Oh, I argued, I screamed, I just had to be right. All beat up and run down, I was ready to quit. I met a man named Jesus who ended my fear. Oh, he told me about love and I made a decision. And my old man died with my bad religion. Bad religion. Well, this is an important time of year for all of us because we're getting ready to celebrate. And so we'll do some celebrating right here. Go ahead, bro. Can I tell you a story from not too long ago about a man whose life was wrecked? He couldn't take it anymore. When it seemed all was lost, one night down on his knees, no place left to turn. This is what he said. Is there anyone out there who would care for a sinner like me? One whose life is all undone, full of pain and misery. If there's someone out there, would you please answer me right now? Deep within, these words seem to comfort him somehow. There is mercy. There is mercy. A single mom all on her own, with babies by her side. She lost that love, now she fights just to get by. She does her best, but it seems at times her best just ain't good enough. On her knees at night in prayer she finds everlasting love. There is mercy. There is mercy. Seems that all is lost and there's no place you can go. There's one who's always there. Forgiveness he will show. If you look, you'll see his arms are waiting for you now. And with kindness in his voice, you can hear him shout. Mercy, mercy for you. There is mercy. All right. Thank you so much. You know that song, it talks about mercy. And you know what we need to be at our best at is giving that. Yes, sir. And it's so cool that we have that opportunity. You know, it happens everywhere. You know, we came into town Friday, and we went into town to pick up some things, and I pulled up to the gas station, and got out and started to fill my car up with gas. And somebody pulled up beside me, and he goes, "Well, I know you." And he goes, I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." And so my response was, "Are you coming to church on Sunday?" And the reason that my response is that way is because I have to add a little interlude there, you know. So that's how people come to Jesus in America. Is it? It's not by our evangelistic programs. I'm not against that. You know, it's not by us going out and knocking on doors, which I've done. You know, I've done all that stuff. I didn't like it, but I did it. You know what I'm saying? Can I have an amen? There you go. And but it's just us inviting people to come to church, and because that, you know, puts them in all this environment that we create. You know, before anything happens, before anybody preaches, there's stuff going on because we've dedicated this space as sacred. And it's so incredible that y'all have that opportunity to do that. And guess what? Easter's coming up. Right. And you know what that means? Half of the C&E club are coming to church. You know, see Christmas and Easter club, you know, they only come on Christmas and Easter. But I'm not knocking that now, so don't get me wrong. I'm glad they're coming at least twice a year, because who knows what could happen in one of those moments. Is that, well, that last song, the third verse, it talked about a single mom. And if you're here today and you're a single parent, I just want to speak to you for a second and just say that you are not insufficient.
That's right.
God will give you more, give you enough of everything that you need, and He's not holding back anything from you to have everything that you need to be able to do the job that you do. And I know I've told this story here before, but I'm going to tell it again today, and because I'm crazy about people inviting people to church. And but there was a single mom in our town, and she'd had a horrible life. I'm multitasking now, so I'm not ignoring you. I'm actually trying to tune my guitar and talk at the same time. And she was in the grocery store shopping. And guess what happened? Somebody invited her to church. A housewife in the grocery store. She saw her and she went up to her and she said, "You know, I've been thinking about you." And she said, "I'd like to invite you to come to church." And she accepted her invitation. And as soon as she walked in the door, she felt something. She felt welcomed, and she felt accepted, and she felt loved, and she felt respected. And it did something in her heart, because that kind of stuff is so powerful. I mean, people, you know, once you get around somebody that treats you like that, especially a group of people that treat you like that, it affects your heart. It affects everything about you. And it with her, it was magnetic. And so she started to come back to that church and just to experience that. And I want to make this point. I want to make it clear. I've already made it, but I want to make it again. So before the music, before the preaching, before anybody got on the platform, it was how the people treated her that was the most important to her.
That's right.
And she couldn't figure that out, because any time that had happened before in her life, what it meant was, these people want something from me. They want something from me. They're just being nice so that they can get something from me. And I'm an advocate for us just being lovers of people and not worrying about. So if Giles is making noise over here, if he bothers you, then I was in a service one time with R.W. Shambach, and there was a baby back in the back that was crying. And everybody, all the ushers were rushing around. Everybody's rushing around, going to get the baby, get the mom, and take her out so she didn't disturb anybody. And he said, "Wait a minute. You leave that baby alone, because there's millions of them that never had a chance to cry." So you leave that one crying. So if he makes some noise, it's all right with me. I'll just turn my guitar up. But this single mom, she started coming back to that church, and because she was so attracted to all that she felt. And you know what makes you think that when people get around you that they don't feel something? You know, the Bible says that Peter had a shadow, an aura around him, and they'd lay people out on the street, and when he just walked by, they would be healed. And what makes you think that you're any different than that? People get around you and it's like, man, I don't know what it is about you, but you got something that's pretty remarkable. They might not say it, but they feel it. It doesn't have to be all super spiritual or anything. It's just you showing up and being there. So anyway, the single mom, she came to church one Sunday night with her little boy, and there was a prayer service and people were lined up praying, and she needed prayer, but she had all kinds of shame in her life as well. And prayer service started, and all of a sudden she felt a hand on her pant leg, and it was her little boy. And she bent down to see what he wanted, and he told her, he said, Mom, we need prayer. And she said, I know we do, baby. It's going to be okay. Jesus will take care of us. And that appeased him for a few minutes, but then she felt her hand on his pant leg again. And she said, what is it, baby? And this time he was more determined, and he said, but Mom, we need prayer. And she said, okay, give me your hand. We'll pray right here. And he said, I want to go up there. And reluctantly, she brought him down front. I told the pastor it was the little boy that wanted prayer. And the pastor got down on one knee and looked him straight in the eyes and said, son, what do you want Jesus to do for you? And he said, I want Jesus to bring my daddy home. And so they prayed. And their life got worse. But she kept coming. And one Sunday night, she came to church with her little boy and her ex-husband. And there was an opportunity for people to believe on Jesus, like there will be here in a little while, today. And everyone except maybe the little boy was shocked when his daddy's hand went up in the air and said, I want to receive Jesus. And their marriage was reconciled. More children added to the family. And I have the honor of coming to church with that little boy today. Of course, he's not little anymore. But that story is mine and Sherry's and our son Jason. And Jason's here today. Jason, stand up. You want to say anything? Okay. I'm not crying. You said you weren't going. I'm not crying. I'm wiping my glasses off. Sheesh. The dirt on my eyes. His allergies. Yeah, it's the pollen in Arkansas. So that's the power that we have, that we get to share the love of Jesus with people, and it's just so incredible. You know, I've noticed lately that we go through seasons where we just seem to grow cold. Did you know that? You know what I'm talking about? We just are, all of a sudden our hearts are like, man, I'm cranky, I'm angry. And the Bible tells us that we have to stir ourselves up. It's not something somebody else does for us. It's not by, you might get inspiration from coming to church or doing whatever. So it's like we're breaking out the hankies or the Kleenexes. We need like a Kleenex endorsement. Now I have to sing. Well, I don't have to, but I'm going to. So anyway, that's what this song talks about. I wrote it at a time in my life where I had to make a decision. Was I going to go for it or relax? Was I going to press on and really lay hold of the promise that I knew that God had for us, or just sit back? It goes like this. Ever since the day I met you, I made up my mind to let you be the Lord of my life. No matter the cost, I'll carry the cross and keep giving all my love to you. Though my friends may all forsake me, disrespect and make me feel like I'm a fool, but I made up my mind. I set my face, I cast all my fate to the wind. Whatever the cost, though all be lost, I'm gonna keep on loving you. I'm gonna keep on loving you, Jesus. Prize I found, this prize that I found is more precious than gold, and I wouldn't trade for the wealth of the world. That which was lost now is found, and I'm gonna keep on loving you. Mercy, that's what He's given. I'm hopelessly me, Jesus. Whatever the cost, whatever the loss, no matter what anybody says, I'm gonna keep on loving you. I'm gonna keep on loving you. Thank you so much. You know, y'all as a church have really been a big help to Sherry and I on what we do. And I just want to show you a little video of some of the places that we're invited to go. And we have some unique opportunities. We just did a thing in Kansas City that was so unique. Y'all doing all right? Are you hot? Are you hot? It's hot up here.
It's always hot up there.
Don't boss me. We have a teaching series back on the table called You're Not the Boss of Me. So, but we just did a thing in Kansas City. There's a 100,000 watt FM station there that's the most liberal voice in our community. And they have always been a big fan of mine and very supportive of what we do. And they invited me and the band to play a live remote at BB's Lawnside Barbecue. So if you ever come to Kansas City, you have to go to BB's. Great food. They were on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dive. So they asked us to play a live remote. So we played for an hour and 40 minutes live on the radio. And before it was sold out, the show was sold out. It was at 8 in the morning. It started at 8 and ended at 11, and people were drinking like there was no tomorrow, man. It's like, I don't know how you do that. It's like, sheesh. Even when I was crazy, I couldn't do that. But the guy that invited us, one of the disc jockeys, his name's Junebug. He has a show called The Blues Kitchen. He has a band called Junebug and the Porch Lights, which I think is fabulous. And so we were getting ready to go on, and he says, so now you're going to go on at this time. And he goes, now I want you to do what you do. And I said, yeah, we're going to get up here. We're going to do a lot of music. And he says, no. He said, I want you to do what you do. So I want you to preach, I want you to tell stories, I want you to play music, and I had complete liberty on the most liberal voice in our community to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. It was just fabulous. So anyway, we have this real short video. It's only 57 seconds long, and it goes like this. There should be audio sometime. That's it. So some of those places, of course, Sturgis, we've been there every year since 1997, and then there was some Wounded Warrior stuff on there. We were invited in 2017 to be at Walter Reed Hospital twice, and then invited to perform at the Invictus Games in Toronto, which is an international competition that Prince Harry started, and so we just have all these unique opportunities that a lot of ministers don't get, and we're just thrilled to be able to do that and for y'all to send us. And prison, we're getting ready in May 31st through June 9th. We do our transformation tour in Kansas. We'll be in, 6 or 7 prisons there in that week. And, we really, people say, well, you do a lot of prison ministry. It's like, well, we do a couple of events a year, and we focus on those events. But like in June, we'll be in front of thousands of inmates. And last year, we prayed with hundreds, if not thousands of them. And it's just a remarkable time because we realize that the solution to the problem that we have with crime isn't more police and more prisons. It's taking the truth to the heart of the criminal and seeing transformation happen there. So one other thing, and then I'll do another song and I'll quit, singing. Just make sure I'm not quitting, but I'm quitting singing. But I did a thing in February. I don't know if you saw it or if you follow us on social media or you're on our mailing list, but I did a thing called Couples Retreat in 5 minutes or less. And I did it for guys like me that hate going to marriage seminars, you know what I'm saying? And all the brothers said, rock on. And so anyway, it's kind of like a devotional thing. There's, I think, 22 segments of it. And all you have to do is do we have that logo? Can you show that logo? And all you have to do is go to our website, and you'll see this as soon as you get there. Just click on that, and it'll take you to a sign up. It costs you your email, your name, and your phone number. And then it'll just start delivering to your inbox. So do that. If you need a web address, it's therevjb.com. There's cards on the table back there that you can pick up and do that stuff. And one more thing, and then I'm finished. I promise. So just let me mention a few things that are back there. There's a DVD back there of Jessica and I telling the story that we're going to tell you here in just a minute. There is some new music. This is Blues Country, which is a collection of classic country songs from the 50s and 60s, and the New Old Stuff, which is a hymn CD that I did in 2017. And then finally, there's some other things back there, some teaching and some other stuff. But then finally, mine is Sherry's book, which is called Granny Paid for Our Divorce, because my grandmother paid for our divorce. And so the rest of the story's in the book. And Jason's story's in there, and Jessica's story's in there, and there's even pictures. We did something this week that was fun. Let's see, what did we do this week? Oh yeah, we signed up for Medicare. And mine was like, no problem. Sherry's was like, we had to call in and be on a phone for an hour, and they couldn't help us. They said, you have to go to the office, so we go to the office and stand in line for an hour, and they say, well, we can't help us. So you have to come back on Tuesday, and you have to have your birth certificate and your marriage license. And we're like, well, man, there's no way we know where that stuff is. So we had to go to the county, and we go to get our marriage license, and we're sitting there, and the lady goes, she pulls up, she goes, gets our name, she types it in, and she goes, now, which one of these do you want? And I said, we want both of them. So we got both of our marriage certificates, and then we had to go to another place to get Sherry's birth certificate. And so we got that, and then we said, well, let's just go to the courthouse and get our divorce papers. So we got all three of them laid out. Man, we're going to put them in a frame, stick them up on the wall, and call it the trifecta. So anyway, this song is a song I wrote in 2010, and I almost didn't put it on the Exchange album because it was just so strange, because it's a song about the hope of being forgiven. Not about actually being forgiven, but just about the hope of being forgiven. It's called It's a New Day, and it goes like this. What if I could start over? What if the slate was clean? What if I didn't feel all this guilt and shame that I feel inside? It's because I'm so selfish. It's all about my foolish pride. But nothing matters without you in my life. And all I hope for is a brand new day. The day that I'm forgiven and I start over again. It's a new day. I hope 'cause hope's a good thing, one of the best I'm told. Hope's all I have when I don't have your hand to hold. When will this sunshine again? When will these clouds be gone? But still I hope that today's the day. And all I hope for is a brand new day. The day I'm forgiven and we start over again. It's a new day. My way, I'd be where I belong, and my mistakes would be just like the setting sun. But then with every sunrise, I face the lonely truth. But still I hope that today's the day. And all I hope for is a brand new day. The day that I'm forgiven and I start over again. It's a new day.
Did I forget anything?
Just checking. I might be having a senior moment. You know, a lot of times when we go to church, we hide, and because we don't really want to talk about, or we don't want everybody to see the real pain and some of the bad choices that we've made. And today isn't going to be one of those days. You might not be accustomed to coming to church when things are as raw and as real as they will be today, but we have a purpose in what we're doing today, and it's our honor to be able to have you here as our audience to share in our family's life. In 2009, on Father's Day, I was preaching in St. Louis, Missouri, large church. Jason was there. The band was there. I told Jason's story just like I did today. Many, many people came to believe on Jesus. It was Father's Day. And in the crowd was a young girl that we didn't know, and she didn't know us. And she was so impressed with this incredible preacher that she heard that she began to text her big sister who lived on the East Coast, and she was telling her all about the service that she was in and how moved she was by it. And when she got out of church, she called her big sister on the phone, and she was telling her all about this incredible preacher that she had heard. And finally her big sister said, "Well, tell me this guy's name and I'll look him up online." And she said, "Well, his name's Jimmie Bratcher." And her big sister dropped the phone in shock. And when she picked up the phone, she asked her little sister, she said, "Do you know who this man is to me?" And she said, "No." And her big sister said, "Well, he's my dad." And today, the big sister happens to be here in church with us, and her name is Jessica. And I would like for Jessica to come and join me up here. Give her a hand.
Morning, y'all.
So to back up, in 1971, I was a selfish, out-of-control 17-year-old who had never been disciplined because my folks didn't believe in discipline. And so I made decisions for myself and for my family that were the wrong decisions. And I was dating a girl who was several years older than me, and one night she came to me and said, "I'm pregnant." And to which I just decided that I would believe it wasn't true. I assumed that it wasn't the truth. After all, it was the 70s and everybody was crazy. And somebody answer that phone. It's not. Is it for me? Maybe. Oh, yeah. He sent me a Christmas card. I got a Christmas card from him. But so I just decided to ignore this, which to this day I can't believe that I made that choice. I can't believe that I would purposely abandon one of my children, but I did. And so when Jessica's little sister heard the news about me, she started to go to their mother, and for the next year and a half she asked her mother to contact me. And so on February 13th, 2011, Sherry and I were in Christiana, Pennsylvania, and I was getting ready to speak for the last time. I had spoken 9 times that weekend, and of course I don't know any of this is going on, and I'm getting ready to walk out on stage. I was back in the green room drinking a cup of coffee, and I'm getting ready to walk out on stage for the last service, and I hear this voice down inside my heart. And the voice says, "I'm about to change your life." And so I started dreaming about all the things that I wanted changed in my life. You know, like, well, maybe I'll pastor a church, or maybe we'll quit traveling and I'll get a real job, and all of those things. And you know what? Every time we do that, we always come up short, because God's always going to have dreams that exceed our expectations and our beliefs. And so I did the service, and Sherry and I got in the car with another couple in the back seat of a Honda Element, worst car ever for a back seat. And I get an email from Jessica's mother, and it's the first time I've heard from her since 1971. And the email says this: "It's overdue that you should meet your daughter and your grandsons. Her name's Jessica, and you can look her up on Facebook. And, oh, by the way, she doesn't know about you yet, but obviously she did." So I sent her a Facebook friends request. What? I'm not crying.
It's the pollen.
It's the pollen.
It's the pollen. So it's February the 13th, and if you are a NASCAR fan, that is Daytona 500 weekend, right? That is the Super Bowl of racing, and all things in my life stop because my husband is a big NASCAR guy. So we are watching the Daytona 500, whether he is watching the Daytona 500, and I don't know what I was doing. And I open up my computer, because back then Facebook was not on our phones because that technology wasn't quite that good yet. So I open up the computer and I have this email that says, "You have a friend's request from Jimmie Bratcher." And I said, "Baby, you need to look at this." And he says, "Woman, race is on." And I reminded him, I'm like, "Darling, this is important. Can you look at this?" Of course I said it that way.
Sure you
No,
did.
I think I said something like, "Would you look at this? This is important." And he looks at it and he says, "Isn't that your dad?" And I said, "Yep." And he says, "What you gonna do about it?" And I said, "Nothing." And I closed the computer and I got in the truck and I drove to the store, and I'm not sure what I thought I was going to get or what I thought I was going to do. And I'm not sure how I got there, because I'm pretty confident that I couldn't see because of the tears. Because I'm 38, almost 39 years old. Why are you here? Why now? What is going on? Really? But before that, when my sister starts messaging me and tells me that, here he is, of course, I kind of looked him up a little bit, maybe stalked him a little bit on Facebook, There's this internet presence, so I'm looking and checking out his website and all this stuff. And she says, what are you going to do about it? And I said the same thing. I said nothing. But for the next year and a half, what God did was he said, I have something for you. I have something more for you. But you have to trust me. And like Dad said, it's never what we think, right? So I'm thinking we're going to change jobs. We're going to move back to Missouri. I'm not going to work in D.C. anymore. Like, I've got this list, these expectations of what's going to happen in my life. And none of that is what happens, right? But so for 18 months, God is speaking directly to my heart and says, you have to trust me because this is huge. This is big. But it can't happen if you don't trust me. So I get this friend's request and I shut the thing and I go to the store and I am silent, as far as he knows, for weeks. Because the only thing I could do was listen. In John 10, it talks about God is the good shepherd and his sheep know his voice and they follow. And I read a book recently where a shepherd is talking to someone who she's introducing to the flock. And she's whispering as she talks from one person to the other. And the guest says, why are you whispering? And she says, I'll show you. And as soon as she speaks up, the whole flock comes running. And that's all I could do was listen to my father, because I have been my whole life abandoned and unwanted and unloved and so many other things that I was because I didn't have an earthly father. My mom tried. She did the best that she could. But my grandfather was my dad. And he was dying. He was old. My father-in-law had taken on that role. And in February of 2010, I sat in a hospice room with him as he literally breathed his last and crossed over to heaven. And had I been anywhere else, I would have been screaming, God, why are you taking him? He's the only daddy I have. Why don't I get to have a daddy? Why are you taking him from me? And a year, almost to the day later, is when I get that Facebook friend's request. And little did I know God was saying, you get him.
And during that period of time, I went through some of the deepest grief that I've ever experienced. I couldn't believe that I had made the choices that I made concerning Jessica. And the Bible says there's a time when you pray and all you can do is groan. And that's where I was at. I'd wake up in the morning and I had 3 words is all I could do. And I'd just say, oh God, Jessica. And that was my prayer. And so we waited. And in March, I was with the band and we were at Daytona Bike Week. We were doing concerts. And on March 13th, we just finished our last concert. We were sitting at Ruby Tuesdays right across from the Daytona Speedway. And we're sitting there eating. And the whole time we're there, my band's going, what's wrong with you? What's going on? What's going on with Jimmie? And we're sitting there at the table and I get an email from Jessica. And the email says something like this. You want to say this? You want me to say it? Okay, go.
So I wrote this email.
With help.
With help. My husband stood behind me because I couldn't do it by myself. And I wrote from the rawest place that I could because he needed to know the truth before we took one step. I don't know why you're here now. The woman in me wants to know why and where you've been. But the little girl in me wants to run to you with arms wide open. But I also reminded him that I dealt with my emotions concerning you a long time ago. Every daddy need I had, I put in a beautiful box with a big pink bow, and I locked it away way deep inside my heart. I knew that you would never see me dance. I knew that you would never see me graduate, and I knew that you would never walk me down the aisle. But you're here now. Thanks for showing up.
And when I read the words, "Thanks for showing up," I knew that's special to me and Sherry, because whenever somebody says, "Well, tell me about your ministry," we had the ministry showing up. You know, I said it earlier today. And so I knew at that point that God was doing something here. And so I took the next 5 hours to answer her questions. And as I closed my email, I referred to something that she had said. She had talked about this little girl and how she wanted to run into my arms. And so I closed my email by saying, "Jessica, I hope that the little girl wins. In this argument, I hope that you listen to that little girl." And so we started communicating to each other that week via text and emails, no phone calls. And it was like a full-time job. All I did was cry. 2011 was my year of weeping, because that's all I did. And so we started talking about family and family history, and she wanted to know if Sherry knew about her. And I said, yeah, Sherry knew about you, because when we were first married, like the first time, before Granny paid for our divorce, Sherry asked me one time, she said, "Well, you're not going to have some kids showing up or something, are you?" And I'm like, "Well, maybe." And then she wanted to know if our kids knew about her. And we said, I said, we're waiting until you see how, that goes, how we respond to each other, and then we'll let them know. And we were on the road, and we wanted to do it in person, but Amanda, my daughter, is our personal assistant, so she has access to all my emails, so I'm afraid she's going to open up an email and go, "What the heck is this?" So we had to call the kids from the road, and we called Jason and told him that he had a sister, and called Amanda and told her. And Amanda's response, I'll tell you about that in a minute, but Jason's response was, "Well, I heard all those crazy stories about you guys from the 70s, and I'm not surprised this hadn't happened before now." And Amanda and Sherry said exactly the same thing without knowing what the other one would say. And Sherry and I were talking after this conversation started with Jessica, and she said this, and Amanda said exactly the same thing. She said, "Jimmie, we have a great life. We have a great family, but something's always been missing. And Jessica, Leroy, and the boys, they're it." And Amanda said, "Great, I got a sister."
Jim, tell them about Jason's blog that he wrote.
I don't know if I can. And we're not right yet, okay? Don't boss me. No, I'm kidding.
So while he's doing all that, I am hearing story after story after story. People are coming out of the woodwork talking about their daddy stories or about this lost parent or this lost child or whatever. And none of them are good. Not one. Like we have one guy saying, don't tell him where you live. Don't let him meet your kids. Don't show him their pictures because mine stole my identity. I have another one telling me I had to get a restraining order. And this is every day, all day long. Every time somebody hears about it, they're coming up to me telling me some dysfunctional nightmare. And I'm thinking, what have I done? I am opening myself up to this craziness. I don't know who these people are. Yeah, so they're preachers. Maybe they're one of them ones on TV. Like those ones from that Bad Religion, right? Maybe they're like that. And so I start kind of freaking out a little bit, and God keeps going, trust me, trust me, trust me.
So through that week we communicated, and by the end of the week I had told Jessica, I said, look, we're on the East Coast and she lives in DC, and I said, if you want to meet, we can meet you on Monday, March 14th. And so she picked out a place in Charlottesville, Virginia, because Leroy was working there a couple hours south of their home, and she picked out a restaurant, and so we went to meet them. And we pull into the parking lot, and here's her and Leroy standing by the most gigantic pickup truck in the world. And Leroy, I have to tell you about Leroy. So their last name is Strong. So Leroy Strong, First Sergeant, retired Marine Corps, drill instructor of the year, Leroy Strong. And I pull up and I'm going, he's packing. I know he's packing. And so we pulled up and we got out of the van and we went up and stood. And I was absolutely convinced that I was not going to speak or say anything until I heard her first words. And I tell people all the time, it's like I don't use words like hi or hello in a greeting because I'm too cool for that, you know. I'll use something like, hey. And so I'm not going to say a word. And so we walk up and we're standing there, and because I've never heard her voice. So you know how it is when you hear your kids talk for the first time. It's like she's 38. It's a little different than when they're babies. But we're standing there and I'm waiting, and she looks at me and she says,
"Hey." I'm a hugger.
And she threw her arms around my neck. And for about 20 minutes we stood there and just wept. And while Jessica was standing there, she did something really important. You want to tell them about that?
So, in this process, as I'm standing there and I'm waiting, I'm thinking, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? Because I still haven't figured that out yet. And they pull in the biggest hippie van I have ever seen.
The White Pearl.
Oh my gosh.
It's a white trash treasure.
It is. It is.
It got a new home too, so.
But so I'm standing there at the back of the truck, and I'm looking at Leroy, and he's looking at me. He's like, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. I guess we'll see. And I just started listening to God. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And so I had to reach into my heart, and I had to pull that box out. The one with the pretty pink bow on it. The one with all them daddy issues. And I had to give up abandonment. And I had to give up anger. And I had to give up bitterness. And I had to choose to get rid of them. And God says to me, you don't get these anymore. And I said, but I have a right. I wanted those things. I have a right to be angry. I have a right to be abandoned and hurt and bitter. He should hear what he did. He should hear how he's been gone. And why can't I tell him all that? And God said, no. Because that's not my best for you. So you got to give it up. Give it to me. Let me give you your daddy. Let me replace all those words, all those titles, all those labels, all that identity with loved, with cherished, with received and welcomed. Let me give you what your true name is, chosen. And so as they pulled up, I gave all those to God. And as we stood there, holding each other, weeping, God replaced them all. And throughout the process, throughout dinner, I kept trying to go back there. And it wasn't there anymore. It was gone. God had healed it. He had said, no, daughter, this is not for you. But this is for you.
So we went into the restaurant, which happened to be the loudest restaurant in America.
It was so loud.
And we started talking, and Sherry and I both told Jessica and Leroy and said, look, we don't want anything from you. We don't expect anything from you. We don't need anything from you. I said, but Jessica, there's just one thing. And I said, I'm not asking for it right now. I'm not making any demands on you, but sometime I would like to ask you to forgive me. And I would like for you to grant that forgiveness and forgive me. And she reached across the table and grabbed me and held on to me and said,
And I looked across the table and I said, we can't change the past, but you're here now and we're cool.
So we started a relationship from that point on. We talked in the restaurant for as long as we could, and Leroy, Mr. Stoic Marine Corps Drill Sergeant Leroy, said, let's go someplace and talk. And so we went back to our hotel lobby and we sat as Leroy proceeded to dump his life out on the table and open himself up. It was beautiful. We talked for 3 more hours, and then we went to bed, and we were due to get up and leave in the morning, and we wake up that morning, and Sherry goes, Jimmie, we can't leave. We can't leave. We have to stay. And we have to, this can't just be like we met you and goodbye. It has to be more than that. And Wall is in her court. And I said, okay. And as soon as I said okay, an email popped up. Hey, can we have lunch together?
So my husband is the head of security for our church. Like, he is the stand against the wall, sunglasses, earpiece, arms crossed, like he is that guy. He can tell you where every exit is. He doesn't sit with his back to the door ever. Like, he is that guy. And he
he's
is heard.
packing.
And he's hearing all these stories, and in the background he's going, if they hurt you, I'm gonna go to jail. Like, these are the thoughts. He has prepared himself for life in prison.
I hadn't heard that one.
Right?
That's great.
So he's ready for this. And after we meet, it's like all of a sudden I'm going, who are you? He's talking and he's sharing and he's telling them stuff that I'm going, I never heard that story. And what happened is God did something in his heart, because overnight when he and I are talking, because I think I might have slept for like a half an hour, and we're talking and he says, if you want to take them to the house to meet the boys, that's all right. Now he's working 2.5 hours from home, so that means I'm going to take them to my house where he is not. And so he says, yeah, take him to the house, meet the boys. Give him a call, shoot him a text, whatever. Figure it out. Let me know.
So we go and up by our home and get a hotel room, and so where should we meet? And she said, well, let's meet at our church. And so we pull in the parking lot at the same time, and Jacob gets out, who's the youngest. And him and Sherry are like instantly connected. They're so connected, within the first half hour, they're getting in trouble in church for cutting up and laughing. But we walk in the church to see Aaron, who is Jessica's oldest, and he's on the stage playing guitar.
Wow.
And then we went home and met Matt and Seth, who are Leroy's boys. And Seth and Aaron are right now active duty Marines. And Matt is he's studying kinesiology in college, and Jacob just graduated high school. And so we went back on. We finally went home, and we went back on Easter Sunday. And we're about to wrap it up. Y'all doing okay? All right. And so we went back out to do Easter Sunday as our first church service together. And we're getting ready for church, and I'm drinking coffee at Jessica's, and all of a sudden she comes and she has a gift for me. And it's a coffee mug with daddy names all over it. And it's full of her favorite candy bars, Zero candy bars. We got any Zero fans in the house? So she didn't know, but that's my favorite candy bar. And we're sitting there talking, and she reaches up and puts her hands on my face. Get the curl. Watch it. Don't touch my hair. And and she looks at me and she says,
It's like you were always here. So what God did in all of this, when he healed my heart, he healed our family. My husband and I were both married before, and he has Matt and Seth. They're my boys just as much as anybody else's. And they have a relationship with them. They have, they call them Grammy and Pops. They're connected. We are intimate. We talk all the time, every day almost. And God did something in us that it was so much more. Like, you go back to the beginning of the story and we're talking about what do we think God's going to do in those moments, and look what he did. He didn't just give me a daddy. He gave my husband a father when his father had passed away. He gave my children another grandfather because their grandfathers are all gone. And he did something that was so much beyond what I could have ever hoped for. And now I get to do this. I get to share this with all of you. We get to share this. It's a get to, right? So many things in our lives are a have to, but this is a get to. Because God is so good, we talk about it. But until this happened to me, I don't know that I actually believed that God was good all the time. Because now I know it, because I see it. I see it when I get to spend 8 hours in the car with my brother yesterday.
and today.
And today. But it's like we've always been. It's like we've always been. There is no gap. And then there's that lady over there. She didn't have any reason to accept me. She didn't have any reason. She didn't have to. It was her right to stay aloof and stay separate. But that's not what happened. She welcomes me as if I'm her own daughter. She treats me as her flesh and blood. And she gives me purses and shoes. Yeah. But I have a mom relationship with her that is so beautiful. So thankful for what God has done for our family.
Now here's where this goes. We know that not everybody's story is like our story.
Jimmie mentioned Amanda.
I did. Yeah. You did? Sherry wanted me to mention our daughter Amanda. And Amanda has been our personal assistant since 2002. And Amanda has 3 kids, or 2 kids. I'm sorry, she has 2 kids. Zane is 15, Michaela's 17. She's married to Chris, and they have 3. Chris has 3, Kelly, Brianna, and Jake. And which means that we have acquired 9 grandchildren. And that's a good thing. But
Well, I just meant that they have become close.
oh yeah,
Jessica and Amanda.
Jessica and Amanda
You
are
mentioned all that.
are very close, and it's incredible to see. It's like she described. It's just like there was no separation ever. And I tried to hang on to regret, and which is something that we all do when we make mistakes and we finally receive forgiveness. We just try to hang on to this thing, and I understand it, and some of it's good and some of it's not. But Jessica and Jason both attacked me one day and said, you can't
Like
hang
wild
on
dogs.
to that. You can't have that. You have to let that go. You can't. It's going to mess with you. But anyway, so let me close. And that we know that not everybody's story is like ours. But we know also that fear is what kept our story from being real long before. And so, since we've started telling this story since 2011, we've talked to hundreds of people just like us. They'll come to us and they'll say, well, I'm Sherry, or I'm Jessica's mother, or I'm Jessica, or I'm you, and this is my story. And if that's you, we're going to ask you to do something. And what we're going to ask you to do is going to be completely up to you hearing his voice. Can't tell you what to do, can't try to encourage you to do anything. But as Jessica said, my sheep know my voice, they follow me. That's gospel written in red right out of the mouth of Jesus. And so if that's you, I'm just going to ask that you do something. What? For some of you, it'll be nothing. For some of you, it'll be wait. For some of you, it'll be write the letter, make the phone call, do the research, take the trip, try. For some of you, it'll just be stay away. Don't do anything. But you have to settle that issue in your heart because we just opened it up. For me, the thing that was so remarkable about this, it really messed with my religion. Because you see, I assumed that I qualified for the blessings of God the day that I received Jesus, December 19th, 1976, forward. Everything behind there was just cut off. I'm a new creature, all those things. But I didn't realize, I always, God's not bound by time, okay, great. But what I learned in this situation is that God reach back into my past to a time where I didn't know him, serve him, or regard him in any way, and say, I'm going to redeem this. I'm going to redeem this. And so, if you're here today and you have that breach in your relationship with somebody, man, if you'll open that thing up to God, he'll go crazy doing what he does. Whole time we were going through this, I'm posting, it's above and beyond all that I can ask or think. Eyes not seen, ears not heard, neither has it entered into the heart of man the things that God has prepared for those who love him.
That's right.
And he's just that way because, especially with our relationships, because he's crazy about family. And so if there's somebody in your life that you need to ask for their forgiveness, and I would ask you to ask, if there's somebody in your life that you need to accept their forgiveness that they've offered to you, I would encourage you to accept it. Because life is too short to live abandoned, rejected, bitter, and hurt. Anything you want to say?
Tomorrow is not promised. Spend the time. Get alone with the Lord. Do the work. And like Dad said, for some of you, the work is wait and be quiet and listen. And for some of you, it's to do exactly what Dad talked about. Fear kept us in prison for decades. But look what happens when you say yes.
Yeah. Let's pray. Father, Lord, I pray these words that Jessica and I and our family has shared today will go deep into our hearts. Lord, that we would break up that fallow ground, that hard soil in our hearts, Lord, and stir up the gifts that are within us, Lord. And for those that we need to forgive, Lord, may we forgive them. For those that we need to receive forgiveness from, may we give them and accept their forgiveness. Father, I pray that you would give each of us wisdom as we leave here today, to do the word, to invite somebody to come to church, to be part of the solution in their lives, to step into their chaos and to reach down and grab a hold of them and help them, give them hope to come out of it. Lord, I pray your favor and your blessing on everyone that's here. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you.